Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Tea Talk podcast. I'm Tasso, that's Dana, and we're brought to you by DriftinThreads.com. Use code TEATALK for 10% off at checkout. Dana, how are you doing today?
Doing good, man. How about you?
I'm doing all right. We had a pretty good day today. Dana and I went to go grab some Blanco tacos right before we recorded the episode. So we got some tacos, got to see some friends that we know over there, which was really nice. But besides that, we've been hard at work, guys. We have a lot of stuff that we've been busy on, and we have a lot of stuff coming, which we're really excited about. But today's episode, we're going to be explaining and going into depth on the continuation of the proceedings that are going on between GCU and the Department of Education and how Biden is now using this situation to try to push student loan forgiveness. Dana, can you go ahead and give them a little bit of a recap about what happened the last time we talked about this?
So, the Biden administration was suing GCU, right? It was a bunch of the different, federal departments were suing GCU for apparently not providing enough, information to students, basically withholding information from students regarding the tuition costs, was it? Tuition costs, right?
Yes.
Okay. I think it was specifically some of the stuff with online tuition. Yeah, so they were suing. GCU countered that, their own lawsuit and appeal. So yeah, that's basically what happened the last time we talked about it, which was, I believe, episode 22?
Yeah, 21. 21 should have been, 22 was War on Christianity. 21? Yep.
Okay, 21 then. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's absolutely right. That's exactly what happened. And then, as Dana said, we did get sued. GCU did get sued for $37.7 million that they wanted to go ahead and that they were going to be forced to pay out. We didn't get sued. We got fined that amount. But of course,
we as in GCU.
We as in GCU. And I'm saying we because, guys, as we mentioned before, Dana and I are students of that college, of this college. We are students of Grand Canyon University. We love this college, and of course, we support our college. But of course, GCU is appealing this, and Brian Mueller himself, the president of our school, says, and I quote, "Could we pay the fine? It would be a hardship, but it doesn't matter whether the fine is $37 million or $1. We won't pay the fine because the truth is just the opposite of what they're saying." And Dana, to be honest, I think Mr. President Mueller's got a point there. I think these claims that are brought against the university are nothing but just made up and imaginary. But how do you feel about it?
Well, they're being used as a tactic for one thing. And I know that we talked about this last episode, but Brian Mueller basically said that it's a war on Christianity is basically what it is, against Christian schools that aren't necessarily standing in line with, what the Biden administration's goals are. So, yeah, that's basically why, or that's their excuse for what's happening. They have also said, their position. They've had employee meetings about it and a bunch of stuff like that. But honestly, like, again, what we said in the last episode we talked about this was we haven't noticed them withholding anything, at least from what we've seen. They're actually pretty straightforward compared to other schools with how much everything costs. So that's why we were a little bit confused.
Well, and now, go ahead.
I was gonna say if a bunch of people were talking about that, like a bunch of students were like, because social media is a thing, right? Students would be talking about it if it was a big deal.
We don't hear about that. Yeah,
I haven't been hearing about that at all. So it's like, where is this coming from? And it just seems like an attack from the government.
That's exactly what I'm thinking as well. And another thing is I don't think it's just that we're Christian schools anymore. Just by looking at how things have played out, I think it's multiple agendas in a one. I think that they're choosing to attack us because we're a Christian school. I think that's what makes it pretty easier for them to swallow. I think that's why they're choosing Grand Canyon University specifically to attack, for sure. But the other thing that's interesting is they're also attacking, as you mentioned before we started, the two other schools, DeVry University, which is based out of Phoenix, and then they're also attacking the University of Phoenix. So it's very interesting. It's very interesting to see that they're attacking three schools in Arizona, which is predominantly a Republican state, and that the biggest school that they're attacking is the number one Christian college in the nation, which is our school, Grand Canyon University.
I mean, it is a swing state. It's not technically a Republican stronghold, but it has in the past been a Republican stronghold that has more recently switched to a toss-up state.
It is more of a toss-up state now. I think that there's a lot more involved in that, as I think you would agree with. I think there's a couple things that have gone into play to cause that.
Yeah, but I would agree that it is currently.
Oh, it's a swing state for sure.
It has been trending that way as of recently.
Mm-hmm. And I think what I like about Arizona the most is that the people themselves, it seems like they're very, they're more Republican than not. And it's just people here are nicer in general. People here are nicer to each other. That's just what I've seen from living here. And that's why I kind of like it here a lot.
From, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from where I'm coming from, for sure. Where I'm coming from, you bump into a guy, he's going to shoot you. So, I mean, anything's kind of better. But no, as we were saying, guys, I really think Biden's using this stuff to try to save student loans or to try to forgive student loans. And we mentioned something along these lines. However, now in the weeks that had passed since that episode, we kind of have some proof and some precedent that's leading towards that. For example, I honestly think, as I mentioned, he's trying to use this to forgive student debt. And he plans to use this as a precedent to forgive student debt for other schools. So what's going to happen is he's using this case, and he's going to use this case to argue, hey, well, this school did this, and I was able to forgive these student loans. So I'm going to do this for all these other schools. And that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to make a precedent. He's trying to use it as precedent. And I just, I just don't think it's going to work out because it's very obviously a coordinated attack.
It's to subvert what the Supreme Court ruling was regarding student loans.
Yeah.
Because it is something that Congress has to pass, and he's basically trying to pass it via executive order and through whatever means he can. So that's why he's taking this route specifically.
And Grand Canyon University has publicly expressed its grievances when it comes to these claims against these federal agencies. And it's just, I mean, Dana, it's a weaponization, I think, man. I think it's just another piece of the puzzle, another piece of evidence that just goes to show that our legal system was weaponized and is currently being weaponized against not only the American people, but American institutions that are openly conservative/Christian. I think that it's a true attack on it. I mean, we're really starting to see it because they started attacking education, and then we talked about the war on Christianity in episode 22. If you guys haven't checked that out, make sure you go check it out. But we talked about the war on Christianity, and, that's what's happening. They're attacking schooling. They're attacking religion. Well, what's next? What other moral foundation are they going to attack?
They're attacking the roots of the country, which is basically, religion, specifically Christianity. They're attacking education for obvious reasons. They're trying to make us stupider. And they're trying to incorporate all of their own agendas into the classroom to basically brainwash people.
Yeah.
That's pretty obvious if you've been to school as of recently. And they're attacking the family, the nuclear family. It's a big part of modern America. And yeah, I mean, they're attacking a lot of the roots of America and the West.
I definitely agree with that, and I think how you change a place is you change their morals first. You change that foundation that they stand upon, and I think that's what's happening. Exactly what you said there, exactly right. They're trying to attack our morals. They're trying to attack our pillars. our foundation, the things that built this country. And they want to attack those because if they gray the lines, if they blur the lines a little bit in that area, then they could really start to rewrite history. They could really start to say how they want to have the things and the way they want things. They can make that fit within their narrative. And that's what we're seeing is happening. That's with a weaponization of the legal system is very dangerous for multiple reasons. Excuse me. It's very dangerous for multiple reasons, the way that they're weaponizing the legal system. Because what this does is that any of these large cases, it like just like the GCU case, it builds precedent, right? So other cases can then use these previous cases as a reason for ruling, right? So, for example, if this does go through, if the Fed does win this case, Biden will be able to go up to the Supreme Court and said, hey, guys, remember what you guys ruled? Well, guess what? After this, all that happened, we went and did this, and this worked. And you see, this ruled this way. And he's going to be able to use that as an argument. So it's very, very dangerous the way that they're weaponizing the legal system, because they will truly be able to rewrite history and overturn previous decisions that courts have made, which is very, very, very dangerous in this situation because it just means control. I mean, if they can overturn one thing, Dana, there's no limits. Would you agree with that? I mean, I feel like they would just start overturning whatever they can in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, once I mean, they're gonna try and do whatever they can without completely doing it illegally. And they do it borderline illegally, but they're gonna try and do everything they can to do it legally.
Well, yeah, if you change the system, that's exactly where I'm getting at. If you change the system, you make it legal, right?
Right. So that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And as soon as those, checks and balances are removed, they'll just do whatever they can, whatever they want. So, I mean, that's what they're trying to do in a lot of different areas. I mean, the border, the stuff we're doing with the military, schooling, being able to lock people up for, speaking against the government, stuff like that. I mean, they're trying to do a whole bunch of different.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we've already seen that in other countries, but America's just a little bit behind those countries, and if we don't stop it, it's gonna continue, and it's gonna do. I mean, we're gonna just keep going down that path.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah,
it's just control. You know what I mean? There's they are stripping the freedoms so slowly. It's that it's happening. It's just I don't think people are noticing it. People aren't seeing it happen because it's not obvious.
Yeah, they do it, and then they give people a little thing here to look at. Oh,
yeah,
look at this.
Here's a new social problem that has nothing to do with anything. Here, hi, go run with this.
I think the person who describes it the best is Tim Dillon with his analysis on the big picture here.
Yeah,
people will take their chicken tendies, they'll take their Netflix and whatever, while you get all your freedoms removed. People don't. He says people don't care about freedom. All they care about is their little cruise they take every other month, and their Netflix, and their bag of chips, and their Uber, and
And do you think
all that?
Do you think now? I'll be careful how I word this, but do you think that's a byproduct of the current modern society we live in? It's just things got a little too easy, and now people are like, "Oh, I got my Uber Eats. I don't even have to leave the house to eat." Things got a little easy, and now people just don't care. They're like, as long as I could just keep being a lazy, person with my Uber Eats and all that, do you think that's kind of part of it?
I think the vast majority of people, if their basic needs are met and their comforts are met, they don't care.
Yeah.
Like, they literally do not care about anything else.
What's your stance on
those
that?
Things are met. What do you mean?
Your stance on
is it a bad thing, good?
Yeah, like do you think that there's a level of, okay, maybe you're too comfortable. Maybe you're just too accepting of this. You're too willing of this.
Hey, I mean, I'm all for comfortability. I like being comfortable, but at the same time, I think you have to kind of take a step back and look at the bigger picture. And if you want society to remain comfortable and you want progress to continue, um, and you want to do the right thing, like the morally right thing, I think you can't just sit around and be comfortable all the time. You have to, man
Yeah,
up, and take charge, and change the things that you think are wrong, and fight for the things that are right. I think that's definitely something you have to do.
exactly. Yeah.
So I mean, it starts with yourself. You have to try not to be lazy yourself, and you know, get yourself out of that cycle.
Hmm.
And then if once you've helped yourself, you can help the rest of the society and the rest of the world.
I agree exactly with that. Exactly with that. And I think there's bits and pieces, you know what I mean, that are good. I'm not saying that society's bad. I'm saying that there's parts of it that
Yeah.
are amazing. The society has driven amazing, amazing things. Okay, it's like we have this comfortability, but then we start to get into a little bit of a gray area, right? Because then it's like,
Yeah.
should you get this? Should you be this comfortable automatically, or should you have to work for it? And I think that's where a lot of people kind of get confused. It's a lot of people get
Hmm.
that. Well, I should just get this, right? Because I'm in America, I should just get this. Well, no, I don't think that's a no. And exactly what you said, I think people need to man up, here and there, and they need to start to, go do the work themselves. Hey, if you want this, go get it. The only person that's in the way is yourself. I think we need to start seeing a lot more of that, that way of thinking, because I just don't think we're seeing that way of thinking anymore. And that's kind of what got dangerous. People got too comfortable, and they got way too comfortable. Now they're comfortable to the point where, like, oh, I expect this, I need that. Like, this is a basic human right. But it's like, hold on, no, you got this because X people worked and they got you this, and now you have to do this work and get you that same thing. And that's where I
Yeah.
think there's that little bit of a gray area that people are like, okay, well, hold on, what's going on here? And I think that's what kind of people are waking up to.
Well, people don't. They're trying to. That's another thing with like history and everything. They in the school system, they're trying to strip away like all of the effort that was put in, all of the blood, sweat, and tears that went into creating the society that we live in today.
Mm-hmm.
They try and strip that away and dub it down, or completely remove like aspects of the history, that's so important to understanding the whole picture, um, and that strive for betterness. Because if you remove all that, like, people don't understand why we have what we have now. They just kind of see it and they're like, well, that's, I expect that to be there. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's what I deserve.
They don't understand that work
But
that was put in to get there.
yeah, yeah, and I think that's deliberate. And yeah, if once people realize that, it takes a lot of work to maintain, or I mean, get to this point first and then maintain it and
Mm-hmm.
continue to grow on that. If once people see that, you know, and they're forced to kind of, work for it, work for
Mm-hmm.
the system, and contribute, I think people will be. I mean, I think that definitely contributes to um, the meaningness, or
Yeah.
the meaningfulness of life. A lot of people, they get meaning out of,
Mm-hmm.
working and providing for their
Yeah.
family, and
Exactly. It gives them a
contributing to
goal.
society. Yeah, it gives them something to work for, and it gives
Exactly.
them, purpose. So yeah, and I would say you don't have to be some sort of big leader figure to make a change. um you just need to, provide for the
Mm-hmm.
people around you and yourself,
Yeah.
and do more than you know just things for yourself, right? Try and contribute to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if more people start doing that, I mean, we're going to keep growing as a society, and things will be better.
I
So, but
agree.
once we
Yeah.
all become selfish, society's doomed.
I think, yeah, I agree with that. I think, yeah, there's that fine line that people have to balance between what's the right level of selfishness, what's the right level of, the other things that are involved as well. Because I've said it before. It's okay, and I've talked to you about this before. It's okay to be selfish. That is not. It's okay to be a level of selfish, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
It's you
Well, you
need to
have to be.
you have to be
You
you have
have
to
to be.
worry about your family, the stuff that you have to prioritize above everything else. That has to be selfish. That takes a level of
I
not
wouldn't
just selfishness,
call,
but just self-consciousness.
I wouldn't call it selfish if you are providing for your family. Um, I would call it selfish if you're not even working towards that, goal of
Mm-hmm.
having a family, or, you know, if you're not having a family, like contributing to everybody else around you and helping other people, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
And that's another thing that you bring up. That's interesting. It's having a family. Like we talked about this. Not a lot of people are having families anymore. I feel like that's a very dangerous thing because like if you're not living with the goal of bringing other people into this world or trying to like start a family of your own, it's like why are you here?
Well, it removes a lot of perspective.
Eh,
Because I mean, from what I've heard, I don't have my own, family yet, but
mm-hmm.
from what I've heard from a lot of people is that it gives you a new perspective on life, and it gives you something to work for, um, rather than just yourself. And it's a selfless act, having kids and
Mm-hmm.
providing for your family. It's a selfless. It's one of those things that's selfless.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think I think the biggest thing, like parenting, is a big thing that we've talked about on this show like multiple times. Um,
Hmm.
I think parenting is very important too these days. I mean, a lot of these people, we have to admit, we just have to state the facts. A lot of people are getting born out of wedlock. A lot of kids are
Yes.
being born from one night stands. A
Hmm.
lot of kids are coming into this world from methods that kids shouldn't be brought into this world. The kids are coming into this world by accident. And that's a big problem. That's a big problem because you're setting up this person to be just baseless and lost from the beginning. And it's very, very sad. It's very, 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 very sad. A lot of people, in rare cases, Dana and I have even seen this once. We just heard a personal story from somebody who did this. They got somebody pregnant when they were a teen, and then they decided to stay with that person, grow with that person, and stay with the child in order to have a safe and good example for that child. And that's a very, very rare instance. And now
Yep.
those children are going to college. One of them's becoming a doctor pretty soon, and the other one's about to graduate high school. So people use these excuses, man, but truly no excuse. No excuse. Like
Well, what I
if
would
you
say
make this
on it
mistake,
is,
like there's a way to get out of it.
yeah,
There's a right way to fix it.
what I would say is, comparing, you know, having a kid out of wedlock versus having a kid, while married. Um, I think it's not even just the fact that you're married. I mean, the marriage is a commitment, but
Yeah.
these days, I mean, so many I mean, more than 50% of marriages end in divorce. Um, the important part is the separation, specifically when it's related to a child. It's the separation of the parents is the problem. So if you're out of wedlock and you have a kid, but you stick together to raise the kid together, and you work together as parents to raise that kid,
Mm-hmm.
that is a completely different story. I mean, even if you were married, but you get divorced, or you separate, or you don't work
Yeah.
together to parent the kid, that's like the same thing as
Yeah.
not being married
That's
and,
and yeah. The kid's gonna end up
supporting
in a
that kid.
different way. Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. If like that can happen, but it's the actions that you take after that action or that event
Hmm.
that really, really determine if you're gonna, if you were right for that or not. You know what I mean? Like those people that are having these children outside of relationships, outside of marriage and stuff like that, that sit back and go, hold on, whoa, hold on. Okay, maybe we have to get married now. We have to get married. We have to raise this kid. We have to be good for this kid now. We have to do good for this child. And it's a very rare instance that happens. However, when that does happen, guys, the evidence doesn't lie. These kids turn out normal. Things happen, because these people make a mistake that drills them into the correct mindset. Like, hey, I need to be good for this baby I just made. Okay? Then you get the other side of that too, though. You get the other side of that too. We can't ignore that other side of it. The instance that usually happens is, okay, put this kid up for adoption and or raise it in a single fatherhood or motherhood, and then that's where we see a lot of issues occur. It's not in a bad way, and I want to say that. And I want to make that clear. Not in a bad way. It's just statistically speaking, a lot of those children. We talked about it in the in one of our last episodes. We talked about it. Statistically speaking, those children are more likely to commit a crime and or more likely to do things and not be driven to have a future.
Hmm.
So it's a really big problem now, and especially the fact that they want to attack, the things that are here to take place of having that bad upbringing, education, religion. Those are there to give somebody a basis, to give somebody that foundation. And as soon as you start screwing with that, man, bro, all the cards are on the table when in that situation, man. I mean, they're just destroying this country because then they set up people for failure. If you destroy the institutions that are in place to give people some type of foundation, man, you destroy an entire generation, and that's what we've seen. There's no guide. Yeah, you destroy an entire generation.
To work off of. Well, they remove the role model, remove the the intelligence, the knowledge to work with, and what was the last one? There's education. There's
religion.
Your parents and religion, right? So that would be another role model, or basically a rule book to follow.
Yeah, a rule book to follow. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And see that, but they're attacking that, and it's interesting that they were attacking those things because it's like it boggles my mind how it's like, guys, this is obvious. We always see the same thing in the news. Social issues aren't being made into politics. Religion bad. Like you always see that. Religion bad. Yeah, education bad. Like you always see that stuff. And like,
well, specifically Christianity.
Christianity. Christianity bad. Education about anything related to Christianity, Christian morals bad. You don't have critical race theory bad. Like, come on, man. Like, I really worry about like our kids, the kids that we're gonna bring into this world. What are they gonna have in school? What's going to go on with them? Because the way that things are going, it's like, what is going on?
Well, just think of what's happened in the last 5 years or 10 years, how quickly things have completely
Not even
gone
in
backwards.
In the last year.
But I mean, just look at that time span, like specifically 10 years, I would say. Right about when Barack Obama became president. Like that whole time span from then until now has just been it's just been downhill, right?
A downward spiral. I agree with you. 2012, I honestly think is when everything kind of took a turn for the worse. Vine was out, all that, dude. Because as soon as Vine came out, here, guys, I'm gonna get like sort of conspiracy, but it's not conspiracy because just think about it for a second. Why did the ADHD cases raise after 2012? It's because you had an entire generation that was used to watching videos that were 6 seconds long. That is the most popular platform on the internet was a video platform where people got all of their information, jokes, news, everything in 6 seconds. It's not that ADHD got worse or that kids even had ADHD. It's just people got used to getting information in a shorter medium, which is dangerous. Because now people are going to be like reading a long thing and they're like halfway, it's boring. I don't want to read the rest. And that's what's happening. That's why we have these people now that read headlines and they're like, oh my God, freaking out about the headline. But they don't actually read the story. So I think that's a really big problem. We saw that dynamic shift in the way people received information. And it changed everything. It opened the doors for an entire new way to indoctrinate, not just indoctrinate, but to push propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with that? Like Vine was kind of that?
It was definitely not helpful. I think things were trending that way anyways, where people just wanted things quicker. We were having the invention of the iPhone and smartphones and all of that coming. There was the internet. I mean, there was a lot of things. There was YouTube already. But yeah, I mean, we started to shorten our attention span, very rapidly.
Yes.
So yeah, that's how we got to where we're at today.
And then also, not to mention the, how do you feel about the, like I just mentioned, I know it's a touchy subject, but I mean, do you feel like, I mean, dude, honestly, this thing with ADHD, everybody's got it now.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody. And like literally everybody. And it's like, at what point, where is this kid just hyper because he's a child? Or is this kid actually have ADHD? Like, I remember there used to be
Um,
tests for that sort of thing, and now I just feel like they're self-diagnosing on TikTok and stuff. Like, these kids are walking in the doctor's office saying, hey, I have these symptoms I've seen on TikTok about ADHD, and now I think I have ADHD. I have ADHD.
so that's two different cases. I think this ties back into kind of the topic on therapy we were talking about last episode, because a lot of therapists are the ones diagnosing um, this these conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I am not 100%, settled on what I think about ADD or ADHD or
Mm-hmm.
I know any of those other types of cognitive
Disorders,
um,
yeah.
disorders. Um, and I have some of it in my family.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I specifically haven't been tested, but I don't think I have it. But I know for sure my brother does because he's been tested and has been diagnosed. Um, and I know friends of mine that have been diagnosed and all of
Mm.
that. So, um, but I don't necessarily know the science behind it. I bet you there's plenty of data that shows that it is an actual disorder.
Oh, for
Um,
sure, for sure, for sure, for sure. I'm not saying that it's
but
not. I'm just saying,
yeah,
yeah, no, 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 for sure. I'm saying it's. I think it's very dangerous now. I think it's dangerous now because these kids are looking in these videos, and there's been a whole thing of like, oh, the symptoms of ADHD, or hey, this is like the day in the life of somebody with ADHD or very severe ADHD. Have you seen those videos on like pop up on the For You page? I've seen them for sure.
no, I've seen it on libs of TikTok and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I don't necessarily watch stuff like that because it's annoying to me.
It just pops up in the feed,
Um,
you know, and it just pops up in my feed, and I see it,
yeah,
and
it's
I
not in
feel like
mine.
that's dangerous. I feel like that's dangerous though, because like some kids see that and
Yeah,
they're like, "Oh, well, I do that one thing. I might have that," and then like they self-diagnose. That's something I've been reading up on a lot. But no, the people that actually go, they do through the testing, they go through all that. That's good. Like, and
yeah.
they can get the help that they need. That's
But
good.
I
That's
think
great.
the biggest problem I have with the whole thing is using it as an excuse to not be able to do certain things.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
you you may have a disability,
Mhm.
right? And that sucks. But at the same time, you should still be able to, you know, you do what you can with what you got.
Yeah.
Get the help you need, but also try and still, be able to do the things you need to do and push through that problem. Because it's a problem with life.
Oh yeah.
Every single one of us has our own struggles, and
Hmm.
that is a struggle for many people. So, but some people use it as just a reason not to be able to do anything. You know,
A lot of
I
people,
think,
a lot of that's one of the biggest things, dude. I mean, honestly, the disability abuse is one of the most abused thing in the United States. That's why Medicaid is the number one most abused thing in the United States. A lot of people fake
yeah,
these
and
disabilities, and that's the sad thing.
yeah, and in schools, I mean, they have I forgot the name of it, but it's the plan, the disability plan,
Hmm.
where kids get an extra week or extra 2 weeks, or they don't have to do
Accommodations,
certain
they get
aspects.
accommodations.
Yeah, they get accommodations. I think that's kind of BS, honestly. Um, I think even if you have disabilities,
Yeah.
I mean, there's always going to be smarter people. There's
Hmm.
always going to be people that are better at doing certain aspects of things, and maybe some people are better at paying attention, other people aren't. I think that may also be a problem with just the way the school system is
I
ran.
was gonna say that. I was gonna
And
say,
that's why
do
I'm a
you think that
huge.
should be a change?
Well, I don't know if the school has the funding to do it. Well, that's a whole nother argument because the funding goes to stupid things.
Yeah.
I've experienced that. All those BS programs I got. But I do think that that's why online school is such a cool thing, is because they can create programs for people who learn better with visual learning, or
Exactly.
kinesthetic learning, or stuff like that, auditory.
They could fine
um
tune it to the person.
yes, they could do that. So I think that's why it would help, even for these people with ADHD, if you give them um, a different style of learning, they may be able to pay attention and learn better with their with their disability, rather than giving them some accommodation that
Yeah.
doesn't really help them at all.
Well, yeah,
You
give
know?
them a way to work around it. See that's something that I've
Yeah.
been saying forever. It's if you give somebody a way to work around an issue, that's the problem, man. It's why are we changing the problem when we should be changing the way we're giving the solution? We should be preparing people who may not be able to do it themselves to be able to handle these situations, to be able to get past certain situations they're going to run into. Instead of
In the
saying,
real world, yeah.
yeah, exactly. Instead of changing the situation, instead of changing how we do things, how about we change the way the person does the thing?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big thing that I have a problem with, because it's like, why change the way I do things just because this guy, or just because, person A has, can't do it this specific way, but they could still do it if they do it another way. I don't think we have to change the entire thing. I just think we have to look at what everybody does on the own person level.
Well, I think just with my experience with the school system, I didn't have too many trouble with things. I didn't have
Mm-hmm.
any disabilities or any accommodations or anything. But I mean, when I was in school, I I noticed that they do things one way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's different teachers, right? And different teachers do things different
Yeah.
ways, but it's their way or the highway, especially with math and stuff. Oh, you have to do it this
Yeah, you
specific
have to show
way.
your
You
work.
can't you
Yeah.
can't think on your own to get to that same conclusion. No, that's not allowed, and you're going to get downgraded for thinking on your own. You have to do this specific way because I told you to. Um and so I mean, I know you experienced that in college with your coding class. You did things your own way, not allowed. You didn't
You
do it the
see,
correct way,
that's something that
and
I've actually changed my
that's a
mind
big
on.
problem.
Not that class, not the class, because the class is stupid. Programming, like, you could
Yeah.
100% do in multiple ways. I totally like that. That was so stupid, and I agree with you on that side of things. However, math, I've changed my view on. It's very interesting. As I've
Okay.
gotten older, I've changed my view on a lot of things that I complained about when I was younger. Because I used to look
Okay.
at math and I'd be like, well, why would I have to do it the way that the teacher's telling me to? Why? Then I started looking as I got older at the math that I was learning, and it's like, oh, okay, well, for this pre-calculus equation, you can only use this way that you learned how to do the math. Not this way, because this way doesn't apply, but you have to use sort of this way because this is the way that was developed for this. And so I learned, and it's like sometimes in math, it's a 50-50. It's a toss-up. It's like sometimes there are math equations where you could use whatever you want and get that equation, and there should be no reason you should be penalized for using your own method and getting the correct answer. But there's other things in math where there's like, you need to do it this way, and there's a reason why you're doing it this way, and this is the correct way to do it, because if you do it another way, it's for something else. It might not be for this exact scenario. So I get that, but I also get, I get what you're saying. But a lot of the shit, it's a toss-up. But some of the teachers, like in the situations where it wasn't the situation where you needed to do a specific way, they're just Hitler in that situation. Like, you have to do it this way. Math is math. Like, what? Come on.
Well, it's just an average math teacher.
Mhm.
That's how most of them are, or if not all of them. But yeah, no, I see where you're coming from, but at the same time, I don't remember an instance where, like, if you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong, right? But if you're doing it a certain way that gives you the correct answer every single time, I don't see why you get penalized for that. And I
Yeah, no,
think
that's what I'm saying.
the
Like,
teacher,
it
what
depends on
would
the
be
problem.
a better response from the teacher is that, oh, that's not the way I would have done it for this specific reason,
Mm-hmm.
but I see that you got to it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that would be a better way of going at it rather than you're losing all your points on that because you did it wrong, even though the answer is
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying for that. I'm just saying, for me, I looked at it as like, just as a whole. It really just depends on the problem. But yeah, in the situations where you could use whatever you want and get the same answer, it's stupid how they complain about that, because it's like, okay, you did something that took 10 steps, professor. I took something that took 3. Like, why waste my time?
wrong. And then when it comes to, different ways of learning, the biggest problem is that the teacher is not going to do all the different special ways of learning. They're going to use a combination of multiple where they can. Mostly they're going to use whatever way it works for them. because it works better for them in the class. But I was thinking like, with kids having Chromebooks and everything in the class, a lot of the classrooms now, um, I mean, you should have the general lecture, from the teacher or whatever else they plan on doing, but then give them an online option or online course that they can use so that they can, do practices. They can do, they can listen to a lecture or they can listen to a guide or something, or they can, um, I don't know, just do different things that work for that specific student. And each student can choose which one works best for them. And then they can learn more about themselves, which can then help them determine how they should do things in the
Yeah.
real world. And I mean, it would be a bunch of different benefits. And I don't think it would be that hard for the school to do because they are already giving out Chromebooks to kids. At least in my school system, they're giving out Chromebooks across the board to kids, so that they can do all of their stuff, turn in all their stuff online, similar to how we have Halo. Um, so they would do the same sort of thing.
I think we're seeing a lot of
Um,
schools move to that less like that paperless and more LMS learning management system approach. I think
right.
that's what we're seeing. Even like grade schools, it's going down to that now, which kind of scares me because you're normalizing. Like, yes, it makes it easier, it makes things more efficient, but when you start
Normalizing what?
normalizing, I think content is being normalized, which is kind of scary. Like when we have those standards that everybody has to have, like that's a problem. Like, I think that you need to let children kind of, and this goes again with changing the education system. I think you need to really let children go into what they kind of like. You know what I mean? Because my dad, like, he saw I liked tech at a young age, and so he kind of pushed me into it. He knew that I was gonna like it, and so
So I don't have a problem with the school doing a bunch of different things. I think that's totally fine. The way they're doing it now is fine. I think they should, give more options for things. There should be more options available. But I think the way they do things right now is fine. I just think, I with the whole content thing, I don't see where like where you're having a problem with that, because switching things to Chromebooks or an online option rather
that's
than
fine. That's
pen
fine.
and paper, I think that's a great change, because I remember back, when I mean go all throughout my school, um we were doing pen and paper for pretty much everything.
Mhm.
It's kind of useless these
Well,
days. It's
that's not what
becoming
I'm
more and more
see.
useless, and it's only going to get more
I
useless.
worded it.
Computers are the new
I
thing.
worded it poorly. That's not what I mean. I don't mean that. I
Okay.
think we don't. I don't think we need to worry about much how we're sending out this information. I think we need to worry about what's the information that we're trying to teach these kids.
Yes,
Because
for sure.
there's no reason why my future son or daughter is going to have to spend an hour and 45 minutes in a critical race theory class. It's not going to help them in their
Right.
future.
Yeah.
It's not going to help
Yes.
them be a successful businessman or woman. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I'd prefer that hour and 45 they're in a gym class instead. I'd prefer that my kid's health is prioritized over some, bullshit that was forced onto them by the government.
Mhm.
And that's another thing. They're cutting gym programs to add this stuff. Like they're cutting good programs to add this bullshit.
I don't think you have to. I don't know if this is true, but I don't know if you have to do PE in high school anymore. I'm pretty sure they've changed that
You don't. It's a
recently.
requirement. They lowered the requirement. They lowered the requirement. It used to be like 2 years.
Even
Now
more. Okay.
I think you just need one. Or they're
Okay.
lowering it, or they're planning on lowering it more. But yeah, they're lowering the
Yeah.
requirement, which is like ridiculous. It's like, okay, and then awesome. You had an entire Obama presidency where his wife was entirely dedicated to getting kids fit, and then all she did was destroy school lunches, which made kids less healthy because they were then ingesting more processed foods. And then you cut PE programs. Yeah, your kids are gonna, and you talk about an obesity problem in the United States. You talk about an obesity problem in the United States, and yet you're lowering your standards for physical fitness. And then you're also pushing a narrative that it's okay. You don't need to be physical fit. Who knows about heart disease? What's heart disease? Nobody cares about heart disease. Nobody cares about diabetes. Like you know what I mean? Everybody's become so
Yeah.
delusional, man. It's like, what is going on?
Mm-hmm.
It's as simple as that. Simple as that. And then in regards to the GCU stuff, I mean, I think we covered that pretty well. But obviously, it's still developing, everybody. So we're just waiting for more news to drop. Obviously, what we mentioned and talked about was everything that happened in between the last episode. Just a lot is happening, guys. Just a lot is happening. It's just nothing good. It's all the same old, and right now. We're entering election season, so we're going to see things kind of slow down when it comes to international coverage, and we're going to start to see a little more of a internal nation coverage kind of period. So it's going to be a really interesting period for T-Talk. We're going to still try to cover the more international sort of theater of things. Plus, obviously, we're going to cover the U.S. That's our favorite thing to cover. But Dana, anything else that you want to specifically talk about, cover, mention?
Do you want to clarify your stance on the therapy topic from last episode?
Yeah. I worded it terribly last episode, and I think a lot of people mistook what I meant by weak-minded. I mean, what I meant by that was vulnerable. Not weak in a sense of like you're a weak person, just vulnerable. The institution, and I'm not saying that talking to somebody is bad or like bullshit. I would like to see more programs dedicated to, and you guys know I'm a Republican, so I'm just going to say that before I say this. But I think like mental health is something that's in a different category, and I think that's something that shouldn't be paid for. I think that should be free, subsidize it, do whatever you have to do. But if somebody needs to talk to somebody, they shouldn't have to spend an exorbitant amount to do that. That should be a free service. And I think that's what I'm saying. I think the institution of therapy, the idea of having to pay somebody for help kind of bothers me in that sense, to get mental help if you're like in a low place, if you're depressed, because I've struggled with those things, you know what I mean? And I've talked to people. I just, I didn't need to pay for that. And some people do need to pay for that. I understand that because that's just what it is. They don't have that person to talk to and they need to pay for it. And that's what I'm saying is
party.
Yes. And that's what I'm saying, which is wrong. Like if they don't have that, that should be a free service, man. Make it a hotline. Like do whatever you need to do. Give it government. That's something I'm okay paying my tax dollars to.
Do you think that registered therapists, people that have, gone to school and studied the mind and all that, do you still think that that's important at all?
I'm not saying that that's not important. I think you do need those people. I don't think those people should charge money. I think they should be the ones getting those government subsidies and grants to do it for free.
Okay, so you think the government should be, paying these?
I would be 100% okay, and it's not it's not. I'm not saying universal health care. I'm saying mental health care.
Specifically mental health
I'm saying mental health care. Yes, because I think mental health care is a completely different thing on its own. A completely different thing on its own. I think mental health care should be 100% free. I don't think that somebody should have to pay in order to get the help that they need. It's ridiculous when it comes to mental health.
So why is that different than people that need help with their physical health?
Because I think mental health, it's, physical health, there's obviously things already in place to pay for that. Like if it's an actual disability, they're not paying that out of pocket. They're not.
Who's paying for it?
They're the government. That's why Medicaid exists. So. That's why those things exist, for people who actually have disabilities. You know what I mean? Who actually have and I'm not saying that mental health isn't a disability, but I'm saying not the people that don't abuse it, because we just talked about that this episode. You guys get that. It's people there's things in order to help those people already. So why isn't there things in order to help, people with mental health? Why are those people still the ones paying? Why is mental health not seem as important or at that level for it to be free, for it to be, a service? Anybody could walk to a state or, a city hospital and get free care. Anybody can. You might not know that, but you guys can go to your city and state hospitals and get care for free through the state. If you cannot pay for it, they pay for it. That is the point of going to those hospitals. That's why you go to public hospitals and not private hospitals. That's why it's sort of there. And that's what I'm saying. The therapists, they do great work. Psychologists, they do great work. They went to school, they got the training that they needed, they do great work. Let's make it free. Let's make
Okay.
it free.
And
Get
so
government subsidy. That's the solution to that. You have
and
the government subsidize that.
does that tie into your point where you were saying that the whole institution of therapy preys on
The vulnerable,
uh, the vulnerable people?
yes.
So how does it prey on those vulnerable people?
I just the fact that some of these people, the ones that really do not have somebody to talk to, you know what I mean? The ones that don't have friends, the ones that live in a,
Yeah,
you know,
how does it prey on them? To
I
get
think
money
it,
out of them? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, because it's like those people need actual help. So it's like, awesome, you're giving them that solution, that they have that option, they can get that help. Why do they need to, pay an arm and a leg for it? A lot of these people are already in financial hardships. A lot of these people are, already struggling a lot. And sure, there's affordable plans, but then are they going to get the best care? Cheap therapy is one of the number one mental health related Google searches. I did this when I was going into the men's mental health, when I did all the research. That is one of the number one mental health related Google searches. Cheap therapy. Not good therapy, cheap therapy. Because the institution of therapy, it's so expensive, man. To get good therapy, it's so expensive.
Oh, I know.
You know
I've
what I
been
mean?
through that.
And so that's
Um,
when that's why I'm saying that institution, it's bad. And that's why it should
yeah.
be subsidized by the government, made a service that's free. Because if we made PBS free, PBS is free, guys. PBS is free. I don't like PBS, but PBS is free. We subsidize that. Our taxes pay for that. I want my taxes to pay for mental health services, so that they could be free for people, so they don't have to pay out of pocket. So if somebody is struggling and they're about to kill themselves, they can actually go get the help that they need. Because we shouldn't just have a suicide hotline for when things get super extreme. That shouldn't be the only free thing we give people for mental health.
Well, we should be stopping it before it even gets to that point.
Exactly, which is why we need to make everything else related free, including therapy, psychology, all that. It needs to be subsidized. It shouldn't just be the extreme. It shouldn't just be the National Suicide Hotline. It should be all these other things involved. That's something
Okay.
that the American people can come around together and, agree on.
Yeah, I think so. Especially if people people know how important mental health is. I mean, on top of physical health, how important mental health is just to everything in your life. I think that would definitely be something that people would get on board with on both sides
Yep.
of the aisle. Um, One final thing I wanted to say, just to clarify, or I don't know if it's clarifying, but um, kind of my standpoint, or my problem with the current therapy institution is the fact that it is open to being used to basically, the longer the problem goes for, the more money they make. But there's a balance between it where, you know, they have to do enough to where you keep coming back to them, but they don't have to give you your solution right away. They can kind of hold it back to make
Yeah.
more money from you. That's my problem with it. So
Mm.
I could see how free therapy would prevent that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um
It would solve a lot of
and
problems.
yeah, and typically I'm not in favor of things being free for many reasons,
Same. Like I said, yeah.
but I could see why that would make sense.
Like there's
And I'm not saying that all therapists do that, but I think it just opens the door for that being a problem.
Mhm. And there's a lot of I honestly think if you make it free, it removes all of the situations that I don't like about therapy.
Yeah,
Exactly what
probably.
you said. Exactly what you said. The therapist, and that's what I mean by preying on that vulnerable person. Oh, I figured out what this guy's issue was in the first sentence. But let's save it for next week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you come on. You don't think people do that?
Dude.
Like, and I'm not
Well,
saying you.
let
I'm
me
not saying you. I'm saying like the audience.
no, I
Actually.
know. Well, let me just explain quickly my experience and why I do not like to go to therapists.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my experience is in a 45-minute session, which was the average for each one I would go to. half an hour of that session was asking me basic questions I answered in the last,
Yeah.
session,
Yeah.
or asking me how my day was, or, you know, basic, like really, really basic surface level crap. And then give me 10 to 15 minutes to explain my actual problem. And, you know, then give them 5 minutes to respond to it, and that's pretty much it. There wasn't really a whole lot else that was going on, and a lot of the suggestions they were giving me to help me with my problems was stuff I was already doing, or stuff I had already thought about doing, or stuff that wasn't helpful at all. So that was my experience. But I
Mhm.
mean, I could have been going to the wrong therapist. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But another thing I would say is that I don't want to spend 5 sessions of 45 minutes of my life in some office and just dropping, hundreds of dollars per session. Like, that's just not, I don't think that's productive.
You want to know what
So
my
I mean,
experience
I
was
can,
too? You want to know what my experience was? Oh, you feel this way? Here's a
sure.
packet. Fill out this packet. Bring it to us the next session. Are you fucking
Was
kidding
that
me? Yeah.
was that your
Yeah. Yeah.
experience with the
Yeah.
GCU
Yeah.
therapist? Okay, I had the same thing, and they basically told me, we can't help you with your issue. Go to group therapy.
Yeah. We can't help you
And
guys.
I was like, no, I don't want to talk to a group. I want to
And
talk to
again,
someone
that's
personally.
the reason why I went to that. Cheap, free. You see, guys, these people are getting this cheap therapy, and it's not good therapy. It's not helping them. It's a money sink. Make it free. Make it no money involved. Watch how many problems solve themselves. Watch. And watch how many people don't go into therapy. Because, like, I know a lot of girls that are studying psychology here, and you ask them, like, why are you studying psychology? Every single one of their answers that I've asked, every single one, do you know how much a therapist makes? Do you know how much a psychologist makes? I'm like, are you serious? You don't think it's
Wait,
interesting?
so you want to incentivize less therapists
No,
or
no, no, no,
less
no, 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 no,
psychologists?
no. I don't want to incentivize that. No, 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 no. I'm just saying. It's going to be interesting to see if that happens. If less people are incentivized to become therapists. Because then I think you're going to see the less money-hungry people going, and you're going to see the actual people that want to help people.
Going into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Make it free.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes, of course. Alrighty, I think that's it, guys. Once again, don't forget to visit driftinthreads.com and use code TTALK for 10% off at checkout. Guys, there's a new design that was just posted. It's really, really cool. I like it myself.
On Driftin Threads?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just gonna say there's gonna be, new drops coming, and a lot of things changing with T Talk and everything around T Talk.
Yes.
So not gonna talk about it right now, but in the future, we got a lot of stuff we're working on behind the
Yes.
scenes. Things, more shorts to come pretty soon for T Talk. Driftin Threads is also posting on Instagram if you want to go check out the Driftin Threads Instagram. Lots of cool stuff on there if you're into cars. So
Definitely. Yeah, go check out Driftin Threads. We have a lot of more content coming for that too, because we're trying to work with a couple car groups out here in Arizona to try to get like footage and stuff like that of their cars. Because we want you guys to be involved too. So if you have a cool car, if you have like a cool daily or just a nice little project car, join in the Discord, send some pictures in. And
maybe
then
we'll throw your car on a shirt or something.
exactly, we might throw your car on a shirt or something. And then one more thing, we are hoping for somewhat like of the things that Dana was saying. We're hoping for within a month. We're hoping. I'm not promising anything, just hoping of an announcement within a month. So we'll see. We're not, like I said, we're not making any promises. I'm not making any like for sure, this is going to happen. I'm just saying we're hoping to hit a deadline of an announcement in a month, within this month. So we'll see. But yes, Dana, anything else?
I think so.
Alrighty, everybody. Well, be your own free thinkers. Thank you so much for watching the Tea Talk podcast. We love each and every single one of you guys. We read every comment, as a lot of you definitely know for sure. We read every single comment, and we try to reply to all of you guys. So if you have any questions or anything like that for us, go ahead and ask us that question. We'll reply. You can pick us up on YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, soon, hopefully, Apple Podcast. We're having some issues on that end. I'm trying to figure that out. But soon, hopefully, Apple Podcast. And then we'll be good to go. Love you guys. You guys are the reason why we do this.
And also, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Is this week.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving.
So,
and is that it?
Maybe we'll get some pictures up on Twitter or something of our Thanksgiving meals.
The family Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and everyone can reply to those.
Exactly. Yes. Check out. Yes, for sure. We should do something like that, like a little thread. Alrighty, everybody. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching episode 24. We love you guys. Goodbye. Be your own free thinkers. Don't be idiots. Don't be sheep. Goodbye.